All right, welcome everybody. Our topic today is our personal ecosystem. And most of us understand what an ecosystem is supposed to be. An ecosystem is everything in a particular area working together for the good of every other part. And this healthy balance is supposed to work both in a perfect or imperfect world, as well as a perfect or imperfect body. You know, all life is designed to function in harmony. Every plant, animal, mineral, human, and spiritual entity is designed to work in tandem with and for the benefit of each of the other parts. You are one of those parts. It reminds me of how the great Yellowstone National Park has gone through its changes over the years. For thousands of years, it was wild and free to function as God intended. But once the wolves were killed off, to protect the ranches, the elk herds overpopulated, ate down and trampled the park to a fraction of its majestic beauty. And the absence of the wolf affected every other part of the park except maybe the geysers. And to correct this delicate ecosystem in the park, we later reintroduced the wolves back into the park, and it quickly returned to its pristine beauty until recently. But we'll get to that later. As much as people can mess things up in an attempt to make things better, our personal ecosystem is still designed to flourish. Our life is designed to work together with all the other life around us. And Romans 8:28, King James says, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and to them who are called according to His purpose." So if we have personal lack, poor health, aging skin, a dwindling bank account, or a three-legged dog, we can still have hope. And there's usually something that can be done to regain balance in our life. But many times it's going to take some personal detective work and effort and time, unless, of course, there's a miraculous intervention, which is possible. And if we can understand what our personal ecosystem is supposed to look like, it's going to be a lot easier to figure out how to regain and to maintain balance. So, what is our personal ecosystem supposed to look like? Well, let's first take a quick look into the Garden of Eden. And that's a good place to start. What would we, or what could we be like if we lived in a perfect world? How much different would things be? You know, the first true humans, people with bodies, souls, spirits, were put here to be in total harmony with his and her surroundings, to be in complete harmony with the creation as well as the Creator. And unlike us, they lived in a world that was in perfect balance. They had complete dominion or rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over all land animals, like it says in Genesis 1:28. And when man tried to make it better for him or herself outside the harmony God originally instituted, the entire planet groaned in agony. Remember, every part affects every other part. Romans 8:22 says, "For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now." The whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. You know, the first perfect people with God's perfect supply, living in a perfect world, had somehow acquired the fear of potential lack. And this in turn caused what we call the fall. And like that bruised muscle that seems to take forever to heal, the entire creation still feels the effects of that fall. I mean, it's been almost a month since I did the Pikes Peak Marathon, but I must have bruised my heel, my left heel, coming down. And so, I mean, I still feel it. It doesn't stop me from doing anything, but I know it's there, you know, when I run or walk heavy. And Romans 8:22 from the Phillips says it another way. It is plain to anyone with eyes to see that at the present time all created life groans in a sort of universal travail. I sort of like that. It's a universal travail. We all are in this thing together. We're designed to be in harmony. We have an ecosystem in our own bodies, in the people we hang out with, in society in general, in the earth, and in the whole universe. It's designed to work. Yet for so many people, it doesn't work. In Jesus' case, he also understood his dominion totally. He knew what he could do, and he knew what he shouldn't do. And he could separate that. He wasn't lured by some fear of some unseen need that somebody told him he was supposed to have. You know, he dominated the weather and had rule over the plants. Remember how he stopped the storms and told that tree to die, and it did? I mean, he healed people. He raised the dead. You know, he did so many, turned water into wine. Wasn't any great thing just other than to bless people. Miracles can be small. They could be huge. But like us, he lived in an imperfect world. So if you think you got to wait till after the gathering for things to really gel and work for you, why? Why? And we're going to see some great verses in a few minutes. We, as imperfect as we are, can do great things. We can even do greater works than Jesus did because he ascended to the Father. And he's still accomplishing so many things for us. You know, like John 14:12 says. Now, this doesn't mean that life is going to be without problems. There's an art to maintaining balance in our personal ecosystems, but sometimes we don't see it. We're so used to living a certain way. What about our culture? How do we know if it's right or wrong compared to truth? You know, I mean, it's like, how many wrongs do we do a day? I don't know. And in some ways, I really don't care. I mean, what's it gonna? What difference does it make if you saw everything? But we do want to be able to see where we're missing it. If we don't have the money we need, if we keep having the same problems over and over, somehow we've allowed a fear in there to contaminate our ecosystem. It's always fear of some sort. I don't have, I want. I mean, listen to people's prayers. It's always, about money and health. And those are two things that are promised. Wishes above all things that we prosper and be in health. But it's not a healthy world, and it's not necessarily a prosperous world, but are they available to us? Have to be. There's an art to maintaining balance in our ecosystems. It's an art. Now, an art is something that you develop, right? No one's just born an artist. They may have talent, genetic talent, but they have to train themselves to be that artist. I know my son, he never played instruments and stuff when he was a kid, just played sports. And then he leaves home and, after a stint in college and playing college baseball, he picked up a guitar and realized, then he found out he's a singer-songwriter. They started a band. They're cutting an album that's going to be released this week. Sort of cool. I've never played any instrument. Unless I had to, and maybe the triangle and those wood sticks that you hit together. Philippians 4:12 and 13 from the Phillips. I know now how to live when things are difficult, and I know how to live when things are prosperous. In general and in particular, I have learned the secret of facing either poverty or plenty. I'm ready for anything through the strength of the one who lives within me. Are you ready for anything? The answer is yes. You are ready for anything. And you're equal to anything. Because of that inner strength, because of that Spirit of God, because of the Christ, because of the Word, because of the beauty of the people that are around you that help you be who you want to be. We're always going to have a way out if we know where to look and we put in the necessary energy. You've seen people who know a piece of land like the back of their hand. They know how to run through it or drive their little four-wheelers or whatever. And I have to go a lot slower. I've been mountain biking with somebody who was a good mountain biker. And that person would go so fast downhill, but it scared the pee-willy out of me. So I was riding my brakes. And he went over this one, something called, I think, a Rorio. It's like a dry creek bed. And he just went over this little lip and then kept pedaling. And I went over it, but I let my front wheel hit first. And it sunk into that... It sunk into the sand. Next thing I know, I was spinning through the air in slow motion. And I remember thinking to myself, if I get killed, if I die, my wife is going to kill me. It's a weird thought to think when you're spinning through the air. I laid there on the ground not knowing if I was well or not, but I just had the breath knocked out of me. I was fine and got back on the bike, and as my friend was laughing at me, I didn't know how to do it. I'd never ridden in that kind of terrain before. But he did. And we have to know where to look. And we never stop moving in the direction of our call. I remember when I was a kid, we could play outside anywhere we wanted to as long as we could hear the cowbell. And if we couldn't hear that cowbell and my mom wanted us in, we had a fate worse than death, something called grounding. And to me, I'd rather get smacked, slapped upside the head, anything, but grounding was the worst because I did not want to be stuck in the house, you see. But I had to be within earshot, and I had to go the direction of that cowbell when it rang. And all 6 of us kids had to. So 1 Corinthians 10:13 from the Voice. Any temptation you face will be nothing new, but God is faithful, and He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can handle. But He always provides a way of escape so that you will be able to endure and keep moving forward. He always makes a way to escape. Gosh, we get ourselves into tight situations sometimes, financially or in a relationship or what have you. In a business, what doesn't, but there has to be a way. If God sees all things and He's already in your future, He knows the best way. Put your foot here, your foot here, your foot here, go earn the money over here, do this, whatever it is. Tell your wife you love her today. That was good. Like Jesus, Moses, and all the prophets and the amazing apostles, we too were designed to dominate. We're designed to dominate. And in times of great stress, personal attacks, troubles, lack of funds, and even the threat of death, in all these things we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us. Romans 8:35 through 39. We're designed to be more than conquerors, super conquerors. But I don't feel like one. Well, you still are. You still are. Romans 8:38 and 39 from King James. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. That's pretty good. Love is the greatest power on earth because God is love. And no man, beast, not even our own past, not even our own future, no devil spirit, not even the devil, not even our own death can stop God from loving us. You are loved in epic fashion. We flourish in an ecosystem of love. That's our proper environment. That's what we should be giving off. That's what we should be eating and drinking and sleeping. So what would we be like? What could or would we really do in an imperfect world? Now, I didn't say perfect world this time. I said imperfect. And as they say in the parlance of the day, we would kill it. We'd flat out kill it. That's how we're supposed to live. We're supposed to kill it in the new expression. And no matter what's going on around us, we each have a job to do, and we're designed to dominate. Now, our personal Yellowstone. Allow me to expand on my Yellowstone example so we can relate it to our own particular ecosystem. And the ecosystem of Yellowstone is as unique and beautiful as our own. It's a living entity. And Yellowstone National Park covers almost 3,500 square miles. And that's the size of 2 million football fields side by side. It's a pretty big park. And the park rests atop a volcanic hotspot. And the wildlife and views are off the charts if you've ever been there. But as large as it is, the park is still a fragile ecosystem. And every part affects every other part. And it reminds me how we're all members of the body of Christ, and members in particular. We all affect each other, not just people in your church, not just people that you hang out with. We affect everybody. It's the way it's supposed to be. We should leave people better than we found them. You know, in the mid-1970s, people who watched over the park knew something was wrong. And something was out of whack. And with this grand park in tatters, the visitation down, park managers, biologists, and environmentalists finally convinced the much-lobbied U.S. government to add the wolf back into the mix, but just as an experiment. And this reintroduction finally happened 20 years after they asked in 1995. Not all that long ago. And they captured 14 Canadian wolves from different packs and transported them down to Yellowstone. And after a few weeks in specific pens, they opened up the back and they let them go into the ecosystem of Yellowstone. And they separated into packs led by the alphas and immediately began to do what wolves do. They went after those lazy, complacent elk like they were red-headed stepchildren. And by 2007, the 14 wolves had blossomed to a total of 171 wolves, separated into 11 packs. And the elk who before the wolf had no natural predator, because the bear really didn't feed on the elk. They could, you know. But they were finally back under control, these wolves. And even the burgeoning wolf population began to stabilize on its own. And since 2009, the numbers of wolves have stabilized to about 95 wolves every year since. And they live in 10 packs. So to me, that seems to be the natural number of wolves it takes to keep a 3,500 square mile park in check, is 95 wolves. Or so we thought. There's more. Now, once the wolf was reintroduced and things began to rebalance, the wolf kept the elk moving, and the chewed down meadowlands, now the cottonwoods and the aspen grew, you know, in the fringes. The beaver came back. They made the dams. It brought the small, certain kind of fish and amphibians came. A lot of songbirds came. You know, the coyote, which had overtaken the park, now their numbers were cut in half because the wolf don't like coyotes. And now the coyotes can go after the small game, and everything went back to balance. Yellowstone seemed once again to be in sync as one living organism, a healthy ecosystem, Eden, if you will. Now recently the elk population of greater Yellowstone began to dwindle at an alarming rate. And the researchers and park rangers were freaking now. And like in the 20s, who do you think was going to be to blame? The wolf. And once again, the target was the wolf. Allow the hunters back in. The only good wolf is a dead wolf. And the cry that was out in the 1920s started ringing out again, but not too fast, not so fast. And to speed up this tale, let me summarize. Researchers were stunned when they realized that most of the cow elk were elderly, and yet they were still producing healthy offspring in healthy numbers. So that they were birthing just like they should. So there was nothing wrong there, except for they were old and they didn't get that. And they first thought the wolves were eating the newborn, but a newborn elk calf has no scent and has a camouflage coat, and even a keen-nosed wolf can't pick up the scent of an elk calf. Pretty wild. It wasn't the wolf. It turned out that the bear was the carnivorous culprit. And the bear had never before added elk calves to its post-hibernation diet. It never did. And why were the bear doing this now? And it was perplexing these researchers. Something else was afoul. And after a couple of seasons of watching this eco-drama play out, they realized that the natural spring diet for bear had always been the cutthroat trout, but it had all but disappeared in Yellowstone. And it had been the dominant fish of Yellowstone. People had come from all over the world to fish for the cutthroat trout. It's not there. There's hardly any anymore. There's some streams where 50,000 would come through a day, now maybe 5. Bears eat 1,200 pounds a piece of these cutthroats, every single bear, when they come out of hibernation in spring to help fatten them up. That was their but when they weren't there, they have to go to something else to get their protein. So with man's good intentions, the delicate ecosystem was once again put into an unbalance. And as the old saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Now, some sport fishermen had the bright idea to illegally introduce a highly aggressive, always hungry, predatory sport fish called a lake trout. And they dumped some of these into Yellowstone Lake, and they went nuts. And this is about the same time they reintroduced the wolves. And these lake trout gobbled up the cutthroats like candy, and leaving nothing for the bear. And the cutthroat has no natural predator. There's not a single fish. Some fishermen are predators, but they can't catch them as fast as they breed. And with the cutthroats gone and the lake trout living deep and avoiding the streams, the bear can't get at them. And the adaptable bear needed other sources of protein, so with their highly developed sense of smell and no picnic baskets anymore, they're able to easily find these helpless and hapless elk calves. See, their nose is twice as good as a wolf. And hence the ecosystem of the park is once again out of balance. So the drama is to be continued. I'm sure we'll hear more about this sometime. Now they're trying to gill net these things and electroshock the lakes to kill all these lake trouts. What else are they killing? I mean, it's just one thing after another. Our lives are the same. It's like people, they take depressants and then they don't want to be depressed, so they take some kind of a upper, and then it's just one. They just start messing their systems up. They can't go to sleep. They start popping all this stuff, and then they can't. It's hard to be awake. I mean, we're so messed up with drugs, with the society. People stay up all hours of the night playing games and watching TV. It's fun, but if anything, I talked to counselor this week, a psychotherapist. She's in my networking group, so I did a one-on-one with her. And I said, what's the difference between addiction and a problem? And she said an addiction is when you have to have it. You got to have it. A problem, anything is a problem when it affects your daily routine. Like if you're drinking at night, makes you not sleep, and then you don't get up when you really want to, and then you start your day late every day, it's a problem. Makes sense, right? Let's say you work out and you keep hurting yourself. It's a problem. You're doing something wrong. Watching TV till 4 in the morning every day. It's you're a problem TV watcher. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a drug or a drink. Anything that affects really affects who you're supposed to be, affects your calling. Because that'll affect your prosperity, right? So remember I said you have to sometimes be a detective. You got to look at your own life. Okay, what am I doing? Why don't I have the prosperity? It's promised. Why don't I have the health? See, what is awry? What's amiss? What is in my ecosystem that shouldn't be there, or what's not there that should be? Could it be a set of verses? Could it be reading a certain amount of positive books a month? You know, could it be listening to things that bless you on the radio instead of just all, your acid rock? You know, I mean, whatever it is. I'm not saying it's bad, I like my rock and roll too, but you get the point. You get the point. Now, why the long story? What does all this have to do with us? Our life is much like the story of Yellowstone. When we keep it real, when we keep it simple, when we keep it true, when we don't try to improve on perfection, we fit perfectly, and our life fits perfectly with us. And there's only one truth that we know, and that's the Word of God. But sometimes we've been mistaught the Word, and so we think we know, but we don't. Well, you can figure that out too. Where's my thinking? Where am I sloppy? That maybe at this verse I need to read it in another version. Maybe the church you went to just specifically went by one version, whereas there's many translations, and a lot of the old researchers, they just kept dipping their beak in the same pot. And so is that really what it was, or we just think it is? We think that lake trout is right because we want to have fun fishing. They're more fun to fish than a cutthroat because they're big. Same thing. What is stopping us from reaching our potential financially, mentally, physically, spiritually, as a body, as a couple, as an individual? The predator of humanity. Have you ever felt like something was missing? You ever wondered why your life has not turned out the way that you once dreamed of? Have you ever asked yourself, why is everything so hard? We all ask those things. Everybody on earth asks those things. The easy blame goes to a species, not unlike that lake trout, that was illegally introduced a long time ago into the human ecosystem. Let's call him the adversary, or the devil, or Satan, or the thief, or the destroyer. There's many names. Same being, same entity, same lake trout. See, 1 Peter 5:8 from the Amplified says, "Be sober, well-balanced, and self-disciplined. Be alert and cautious at all times. That enemy of yours, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, fiercely hungry, seeking someone to devour." Like the lake trout of Yellowstone, or the hungry bears in the spring. They're going to eat something. They're going to eat whatever's easiest to eat. See, this enemy, this illegally introduced species that we call the adversary, the devil, it keeps us off balance. Our life might get so busy, we don't have time to think anymore. Or we so worry about the next dollar. It's hard not to. You see? I mean, it's just, we're out of sync. We're out of, those thoughts are like the lake trout in the Yellowstone lake of our mind. You see? And they're going to gobble up what we don't need. We need to reintroduce what needs to be there. Kick out what's bad. It's hard to do, but it can be done. It talks about the renewing of the mind. It's a Greek word anakinosis. It's up in quality. Every day you're up in your quality. Up in quality. You put up better thoughts, better thoughts, better thoughts. And you know how when you know you have enough better thoughts in there? Listen to what you're talking about. If you're still pissing, moaning, and complaining, I guarantee we're still off balance. You can tell. I remember I lived in Japan and we went to visit the shrines in Nikko. I think they were Shinto. And they had those monkeys. You know, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And I remember I didn't give it much thought. It was always in cartoons. You'd always see the monkeys, you know, doing this. And I thought, you can't stop yourself from hearing evil. You can't stop yourself from seeing evil. The only thing you can control is to stop yourself from speaking evil. I figure if you can control your tongue, you can control your life. In fact, it says that, I think in James. It's an unruly evil, full of deadly poison, it says. It's pretty harsh, but really just think. You've been hurt worse by what people say to you than by getting a spanking. You see, most of us, now some people have been hurt pretty bad physically because of injuries or wars or accidents or what have you, but you get the point. See, John 10:10 from the AMP says, the thief comes only in order to steal, and kill, and destroy. I came that they may have and enjoy life, and have it in abundance to the full, till it overflows. I like that translation. I mean, that's why Jesus Christ came, so that we could have life to enjoy and to have an abundance till it's full and overflowing. Just good stuff. Is just, you have so much, you have enough to give. Wouldn't that be a great way to be? You have so much money, you got to give it away. You got to. You see, this aggressive predator of humanity, way out of its natural environment, will someday be hunted to extinction. He doesn't belong here, and he makes our lives miserable because he is. He does not belong in our life. Isaiah 14:12 from the Voice. My, how you've fallen from the heights of heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn. What a star you were, as you menaced and weakened the nations. But now you've been cut down, fallen to earth. Revelation 12:9 from King James. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. He's here, folks, but he doesn't belong. 2 Corinthians 4:4 from the Message. If our message is obscure to anyone, it's not because we're holding back in any way. No, it's because these other people are looking or going the wrong way and refuse to give it serious attention. All they have is eyes for the fashionable god of darkness. They think he can give them what they want and that they won't have to bother believing a truth they can't see. They're stone blind to the dayspring brightness of the message that shines with Christ, who gives us the best picture of God we'll ever get. People are just stone blind, and you can usually tell you're going the wrong direction if you're following the crowd. You know? 2 Corinthians 11:3 and 14 from King James. But I fear lest by any means, as a serpent beguiled Eve through his subtlety, So your minds should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Christ. Verse 14, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. See, most people, they don't see it. I mean, if he wore a red disguise with horns and a pointy tail, you'd say, I'm going to go a different direction than that thing. But people are just following him like the Pied Piper and they just live a life of mediocrity until they die. I run into people all the time who think, this is the way my life is. It's good enough. Grandpappy was broke. Pappy was broke. I'm broke. It's just the way it is. I have a client that I was speaking the word to one time and telling about how God supplies all our need according to his riches and glory. And he said, you're not one of those prosperity guys, are you? And I said, yep. Because he lives poor. He told me you should only earn as much money as you need, no more. And I thought, well, that's not, and he goes to a storefront church right next to his store, and plays the guitar. Good guy, heck of a nice guy. I love the guy. But he does not expect abundance. So if you don't expect it, and if you're too distracted to think about it, you're probably not going to have it in your health, in your finances. There's a way to do it. I believe God will put people in your path. I did a one-on-one with a guy the other day, and I didn't know he ran like an SEO kind of business, a social networking optimization kind of thing, and he said I train people how to optimize the web to work for their businesses. He said that's where people go. He said where do you go? He asked me, where do you go when you're wanting to buy something or you're looking for a service? I said I always Google it. He goes, everybody does. He said if your business isn't doing what it could be, then maybe you need to have some work done on that. And I said, well, I built a website 6 years ago and haven't looked at it since. So the point being is I try to do everything old school, but the world's changed. The world's changed. Word of mouth is still the best, but it's not the only. And so this guy shot me a price, and I think I'm going to hire him to help me with one of my businesses, because I don't know how to do it. But he won't just do it. He will spend a year training the people for a certain fee, and it didn't all that much. So I thought, pretty good. If I can get the guy who works with me to buy into it, then it'd be great. And now did I? Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. And no marvel, Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. See, God puts people on our path, like I said. I mean, you want to increase. There's going to be somebody. You're going to run into somebody. You're going to hear a show. You're going to read a book. Something is going to direct you in the way you need to go. You'll remember a verse. Remember something Grandma told you. I don't care what it is. It has to be there. Remember, there has to be a way to escape, like we read earlier. 1 John 5:19 from the AMP. For we know for a fact that we are of God, and the whole world around us lies in the power of the evil one, opposing God and his precepts. The whole world around us lies in the power of the evil one. They're just laying there. Like in Ephesians, that baby who's tossed to and fro. It's a baby without the ability to speak yet. You see? Tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness whereby those men lie in wait to deceive. There's people out there that want nothing more than to mess us up, to get us off balance. Why? I don't know. Well, I know why. I don't see the point in it. They think it's going to benefit them. Why are people mean to each other? Why was there 2 explosions in the New York City area? One last night, one in New Jersey the day before. It's crazy stuff. I mean, I just saw a video clip of a German ad and the woman, they're playing like Arab kind of music, and then a German girl with blonde hair turns around with one of those scarves like the Arab women wear and saying, you need to be, let's German women be more respectful and compliant to the our guests or something. They're trying to get the German girls to start dressing like this, you see, and it's sort of weird. Now, I don't hate those people, but they're trying to push their culture onto ours, whereas they should be adapting to our culture. You see, what species is getting introduced where? It's the same kind of ecosystem. The ecosystem of Germany is changing because of politics and because of immigration. Now, I know everybody has strong opinions on it. I'm not saying one way or another here. I'm just making an ecosystem, example here. See, the devil is the unwanted predator of humanity, and he will use any disguise to get us to not reach our potential. He tricks us into thinking that we have lack. Because biblically, do you have lack? No. But don't answer this, but do you have lack? Well, biblically we don't, but is your bank account where you want it? You see? Do you have all the things that you really need to function in this life? Well, most of us, if we were honest, we'd say we could do better. We're supposed to say, I have no lack, God supplies all my need. Well, if you don't have it, something's wrong in our ecosystem. How do we get that back in balance and tune? As we saw earlier, we're totally loved and completely cared for. You're totally loved. You're loved beyond your death. You're loved for an eternity. And we're as able as Adam, as proficient as the prophets, as dynamic as the disciples, and as crazy good as Jesus the Christ. Our lack is a lie. It's a lie. There might be something really introduced into, maybe something you were taught as a child keeps us down. Maybe something you're taught as a child keeps you healthy, keeps you good. My mom taught us the Wallaces don't get sick. I've very seldom been sick because I run that through my head all the time. It's drilled into my head. Like my friend I talk about all the time, who always won stuff and made crazy good money and all this stuff. And I ask her, how does this good stuff always happen? Get tickets to sports games, always getting stuff for free. She said, I expect it. Expect abundance, you just might get it. What are we expecting? So Ephesians, so what do we do about this? How do we train ourselves to see ourselves the way God sees us? How do we learn to contribute and to flourish in our personal ecosystem? Ephesians 6:11 from the Message says, and that about wraps it up. God is strong, and He wants you strong. So take everything the Master has set out for you, well-made weapons of the best material, and put them to use so that you will be able to stand up to everything the devil throws your way. This is no afternoon athletic contest that we'll walk away from and forget about in a couple of hours. This is for keeps. It's a life or death fight to the finish against the devil and all his angels. That's pretty dramatic. That's who you're battling against. It's not just some little trout. It's not just some little thought. You're up against it, baby. And you're one of the few people on earth that can see it, can hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it. We're well aware of the military analogy that Paul understood. They all knew the Roman soldiers with the panoply of equipment, the helmet, the breastplate, the sword, the javelin, the shield, the belt, the sandals with spikes in them. They were all there for an exact reason and purpose. You see, they all knew, and we have those same well-made weapons of the warfare that we're in, and it's there. For us, it's words, it's thoughts, it's attitudes, it's beliefs. They're the most important. I mean, if a guy didn't think he was a warrior, and he's supposed to act like one. It's hard to do it. You guys have been in battle. You know you gotta feel like a warrior. You gotta be the warrior. You see, you know so people are well aware of what that meant. James 4:7 from the Voice says, "So submit yourselves to the one true God, and fight against the devil and his schemes. And if you do, he will run away in failure." Resist and he'll flee, King James says. But I think, don't get too cocky. Don't think just you carry a Bible, he's screaming and running like a little schoolgirl. You see, even the most powerful warrior in the universe didn't cross certain lines with the devil. Jude 9 from the NOG. When the archangel Michael argued with the devil, they were arguing over the body of Moses. But Michael didn't dare to hand down a judgment against the devil. Instead, Michael said, "May the Lord reprimand you." Now, I find it amazing that these powerful spirit beings were debating about the body of Moses. So I looked at it a little bit. Deuteronomy 34:6 says that God buried Moses and nobody knows the place. And so why they were doing this, or was the devil trying to provoke Michael into sinning by passing a judgment on him at that point, or doing something to him that couldn't be taken back? Because Michael is the man. He's the warrior angel. But he said, "We're leaving this to God." Because he knew that was a line. It's not for now. He doesn't have the hunting license right now. It's not for now. It's more than what I think it means. And what I think about this, I think that even these brilliant angel spiritual beings, they don't know everything. And God can protect for us what needs to be protected and keep it from them at times. So it's pretty cool. You know, God is the one who really has our back and our front and our inside and our outside. Ephesians 4:26-27 Message. "Go ahead and be angry. You do well to be angry, but don't use your anger as a fuel for revenge. And don't stay angry. Don't go to bed angry. And don't give the devil that kind of foothold in your life." See, don't keep reintroducing the bitterness and anger, and the desire for revenge into your pristine ecosystem. Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. True life springs from the inside of you. You have so much good there, so much light, so much love, so much peace, so much power. But when we have revenge and bitterness and hatred and anger, we just eat ourselves up. And we've basically reintroduced an alien species. Romans 16:20-21 Message. "And so, while there has never been any question about your honesty in these matters, I couldn't be more proud of you. I want you also to be smart, making sure that every good thing is the real thing. And don't be gullible in regard to smooth talking evil. Stay alert like this. And before you know it, the God of peace will come down on Satan with both feet, stomping him into the dirt. Enjoy the best of Jesus." Before you know it, it's all going to happen. Life may not be what you want right now, but I guarantee it will be. But it can be pretty darn supreme right now too. If Christ could live perfectly in an imperfect world, so can we at times. Look at the amazing stuff Paul did, and Peter, and Elisha, and Elijah, Moses. If there seems to be a hole in your life, if things just aren't going the way you dreamed, we may need to take a closer look at what we've allowed into our lives, our families, our businesses, our ecosystems, if you will. We all need different things at different times. No life is the same. God promised that He'll supply all our need according to His riches and glory. Philippians 4:19. Even in this less than perfect world, I think it's time that we believe that promise. That He will supply, He's already supplied all our need according to His riches and glory. See, we don't live in a perfect world, but we can live above the curve if we control our thoughts, our words, and our actions over time. It's not one time that you do this. It's every day. It's a constant renewing. It's all day long. You check yourself, check yourself, check yourself. Control what you say. Control what you text. Control what you tweet. Control what you email. Control what you tell your best girlfriend, your best boyfriend. So if we have some personal lack, poor health, aging skin, a dwindling bank account, or that three-legged dog, you see, we can still have hope. And there's usually something that can be done to regain balance. But it may take some personal detective work, effort, and it always is going to take some time, folks. Unless, of course, it's a miraculous intervention, which is also possible. Last set of verses, 2 Corinthians 10, 3 through 5, King James. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Bringing into captivity we control every single thought. That is not easy. But once trained and with the right equipment, which we already have been given, we can learn to pull down far more than we weigh. You see guys do that at the gym. They weigh 200 and they can pull down 300 pounds or something. I mean, it's amazing. You can pull down more than your own weight. We have the right equipment and we can handle more than we think we can handle. So the topic today was our personal ecosystem. An ecosystem is every part working together for the good of every other part. And this healthy balance is supposed to work both in a perfect or imperfect world, as well as in a perfect or imperfect body. Why would God promise something if it wasn't true? All of life is designed to function in harmony. Every plant, animal, mineral, human, and spiritual entity is designed to work in tandem with and for the benefit of each of the other parts. You are one of those parts. Like Yellowstone, before we humans tried to fix it, with the help of God, we can learn to maintain the proper elements in our personal ecosystem. God bless.